Rev up your engines!
Well, the rotary engine is back. Mazda's putting rotary engines in their cars for the first time in 11 years. Now, this rotary engine is a backup motor for running a generator to run an electric motor. This is the rotary range extended MX-30. Now, one of the reasons they're doing this is because I don't even know why they're making this vehicle. It's kind of absurd. It's an electric vehicle with a tiny battery. The battery is only 35.5 kilowatt hours, which means it says it can go 100 miles. Well, to me, yeah, baloney. Usually it's more like 70 miles it can go, right? Who the heck's going to buy an electric car that can go that far? Well, with the range extender, it can go 373 miles. But then you're just burning gasoline. It's not an electric car anymore. It has an electric motor, but you're burning gasoline to run a generator to charge up the electric battery to run the electric wheels. Kind of a half-assed idea, if you ask me. I think the whole thing is stupid. And when it does have the range extender, the special edition one, right? Only 53 miles is all electric, and then the rest are just a combo. So an all-electric 53-mile range. Why do they even bother building a stupid thing? You know, it doesn't make any sense. It made about as much sense as the BMW i3 that I rented for a couple of days and made some videos with. That thing had a range of like 71 miles. It was degraded. It was 9 years old. The battery had degraded some. I checked it out with my fancy scan tool, showed it been degraded. But even when it was original, it only had a real range of 80 miles. I mean, come on. Who's going to pay 45 grand for a car? And in the case of that BMW i3, it had no range extender. It was the base model. If you bought the fancy one with the range extender, then they put a whopping like 2-gallon gas tank in the trunk of the BMW, so it could go an extra 100 miles, which is nothing, right? At least the Mazda has a real gas tank, so you can drive a long way. Every time you convert, in this case, you got an electric motor, okay? That's running the motor. That's inefficient. Then that's running a generator, which is inefficient. Then it has to go through the system of all the wiring and computers, and that's a loss of power. Each step, you're losing power, so it's kind of a stupid idea if you ask me, but they brought it back. Who knows why? Damien says, Scotty, what are your thoughts on an 05 Jaguar V8 with 80,000 miles that's been well taken care of? Would it be a good weekend car? Well, it depends what you plan on doing with your weekends. That's a 19-year-old Jaguar V8 with 80,000 miles. All Jaguars are endless money pits eventually. 80,000 miles, 19 years old, it's probably in that situation. What are you going to do on your weekends? Let's say you live 2 miles from the ocean. Fine, you're only going 2 miles there, 2 miles back, right? Maybe take it to the 4th of July parade or something, right? I'd never buy one. I mean, fun to drive, but they're all money pits. The parts cost a fortune. The guys that work on them charge a fortune. I mean, you want a good bird bath, stick it out there. It looks beautiful, yeah? If you can get it cheap enough, and you're not going to put hardly any miles on it, it's your money. But don't get suckered in, oh, it's a Jaguar. It's only got 80,000. It's worth a fortune. It's worth nothing. Robert says, Scotty, I suggested my wife sell a 2017 Pathfinder with 90K and buy her mother's 2012 Tundra Crew Cab V8 with 64,000. What should I worry about? As I know the history of the truck. I worry about convincing your wife to sell hers. Let me tell you, the Pathfinders are okay, but the Tundras are phenomenal. Tundra's got less miles. Those Tundras can go 300, 400, 500,000 miles. It might be the last vehicle you'd ever have to buy. Get the same money for that Pathfinder selling it. The mother will sell that Tundra. Do it immediately before someone gets wind of it and offers more money to your mother for that vehicle. Keep It Real says, Scotty, can a bad oxygen sensor make a car idle up and down? Well, yes, it can. More often, it's a vacuum leak. If you get a vacuum leak on the intake system, it sucks air, and then the computer tries to compensate it, because if it's sucking air, it's going to idle different, and it'll idle it down, but then it'll idle up again and down and up and down and up and down. It's often a vacuum leak. If the oxygen sensor's bad, the oxygen sensor helps set the air-fuel ratio, so it can make the computer change it, and it could make it idle up and down. That's relatively rare. And see, here's the thing. If you got a vacuum leak and it's idling up and down, it might trip a code for the oxygen sensor. The oxygen sensor is the messenger, and as they say, don't shoot the messenger. So the oxygen sensors can tell the computer information that is off, so the computer thinks the sensor's bad, when in reality it isn't. I would look for a vacuum leak long before I'd replace the sensor. Ely Farr says, I got a 2020 Kia Rio, 17,000 miles on it. It makes a ticking noise when it starts up, when it's cold. What could it be? The ticking got worse since yesterday. You didn't listen to me. I tell people, don't buy Kias. They're not made that well. Their engines, they have engine problems all the time. It should not make a ticking noise. If it does, there's a problem in the engine. Let's say you didn't change the oil enough, right? It could be the timing chain tensioner is sticking, because when it gets dirty, it won't plunge out and you'll hear a ticking noise, right? Pray it's that. And if it's that, Get my friend Bernie's ATS engine flush. He's in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You can Google it and you can buy a can of it. You put it in, hold it to like 1600 RPM with a fan in front of the car for 20, 30 minutes. Then you shut it off and change the oil and filter. And if it goes away, great. His stuff cleaned all the carbon and it stopped ticking. Now, if that doesn't help, you got an internal engine problem. And that's a 2020 Kia Rio. It's only got 17,000 miles. I take it back to the dealer and I would record the noise first. Because by the time you get there, it's not ticking, right? It's because it's not cold. Say, hey, oh, we don't hear anything, you know? Make a recording of it. So here's the noise it makes, and if they got to keep it overnight, great, because you know it's going to make the noise in the morning. But they'll try to lie their way out of it unless you have a video of the noise. Then they can't wheedle their way out of it. Sir Franklin says, good morning, Scotty. In your opinion, which engine's better? A 5.7 Hemi or a 5.7 you find in Sequoias and Tundra? Thanks. Well, it depends on what you mean by better. Better is a relative term, right? Now, if you're talking about pure horsepower, the 5.7 Hemi has a lot more horsepower. They are strong engines. Vroom, power. Tremendous gas hogs, but a lot of power. Now, the 5.7 Toyota Sequoia and Tundra engine, they got plenty of power, not as much as the Hemis do. But they can last forever. The Hemis don't. A lot of them, the cams go at 100,000 miles or so. The Toyota, Tundra, and Sequoia V8s, I've seen them with 500,000 and they're still going strong. I definitely say in terms of long life, the Toyota. But the Hemi, they're more powerful, but they don't last as long by any stretch of the imagination. Honda Fan 123 says, Scotty, what's a good symptom to tell if I need new outer tie rods? All right, if your outer tie rods are bad, it will clunk. So you jack up the front of the car and you grab the front tires at the 9 o'clock position and 3 o'clock. And if you go clunka clunka and it goes back and forth, but you go top down like that and it doesn't, it means either the inner or outer tie rods are bad, right? And that's real easy to tell because you can then grab the tie rod and if you pull it and it still clunks, you know it's the outer tie rod. Grab it on this side. But if you grab it here and you pull it and it doesn't clunk, but then when you let go it clunks, that's the inner tie rod. Very easy to check. It's very simple to check. It's a real easy thing to do. Generally, outer tie rods wear out faster. Haji says, Scotty, do you have any cool collections we don't know about? Well, let me tell you, I am not a collector. I remember years ago when I took a girlfriend to the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto when I was going to school there, right? And she saw the Queen Elizabeth's dress from ages ago and ruby rings, and she wanted to have them, to possess them. And I said, what do you want to possess? There they are. They look cool. Go to the museum and look at them. Who needs to own them? You know, owning stuff is just like a giant weight on your shoulders. I, for the life of me, can't understand why somebody like Jay Leno wants to own all those cars. Now, I mean, he's got so much money, he doesn't know what to do with it so well. But I could think of better things to do than buy cars with, right? They're okay. You look at them, yeah, interesting, right? I go to the museums and I look at stuff. I don't have any interest in actually buying them. Why buy them? You can see them. I like doing stuff. But I'm easily bored. So I would rather have a friend that has something, like a friend with a boat, go on a boat. Friend with an airplane, go on an airplane. I have no interest in buying a boat or an airplane. And I really don't collect things. I am not a collector of anything except information, right? And that's inside my head. So all the cool things are inside my head, not in the external world. Najamawan says, my Mitsubishi Outlander has a cracked exhaust pipe from the manifold. When I drive, smoke comes out from there. Can this cause a misfire? It's happening now. Well, of course it can. See, the thing is, your exhaust manifold is supposed to take the exhaust and send it out the very back to the exhaust system. If there's a crack, it's leaking. That will affect the reading that the oxygen sensor on the exhaust system has. And it will adversely affect your air-fuel ratio. It will get a false reading. It'll have too much oxygen because it's a leak and extra oxygen gets inside. There's supposed to be very little oxygen in your exhaust because your engine's supposed to burn it, right? And if it's not, because there's a leak and the oxygen's getting in, the sensor gives a false report and says, hey, engine, you're not burning the oxygen right. So it changes the air-fuel ratio, which makes it misfire. So yes, you have a car that doesn't run right and you got an exhaust leak, start by fixing the leak. Start with the obvious, like, let's see, you go down the street, all of a sudden blood starts flying out of your arm, right? Fix that first. Worry about other things later. Always fix the obvious thing. Nevada Maverick says, should I trust the quality of OEM parts? I'm looking at buying Nissan shocks. I say made in China, not Japan. Should I get KYB instead? Yes, I would get KYB instead. They're better shocks anyways. And a lot of these companies are farming stuff out. In your case, Nissan is farming the stuff out to Chinese, which are cheaper made. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're all going to save money. That's just how it goes. I bought a part for a customer's car at the Toyota dealer. He wanted the Toyota part. I got it, took it out, made in China. And I got it at the Toyota dealer. They're all trying to save money. And KYB makes good struts anyways. That's what I'd buy in the first place. If they're factory ones or made in China, I wouldn't even mess with it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.